So several years ago, after I first went full-time with my business, I had an opportunity to create a series of training videos for this online library. And at the time, this seemed like a really big deal to me. I was like, I can make a boat ton of money doing this. I thought that it was going to be a little bit of a game-changing opportunity for my business. And I was really, really excited about it because at that time, my business, in terms of like my organizational psychology practice, was not stable at all. I didn't really have many clients. I had really just kind of jumped in and had started full time with it. And so I was kind of scraping around to figure out how I was going to make this thing work. Well, about a week after I had this opportunity, the CEO of this business fired half of the staff via email. I'm not kidding. Fired half of his team via email. And it wasn't a nice email. It was like, it actually made headlines in the city where this office was based because it was such a cold, dehumanizing way to fire people from their job. And this gave me a lot of pause about working with this business, so much so that I actually reached out to the CEO directly and I was like, do you want help in managing this with your staff? Because he was young, he was inexperienced. I thought maybe he's just really stupid about all of this stuff. And I was going to try to help him at least to understand that this is not the way you treat people to try to get him on a better path. Well, he accepted a meeting with me and then completely ghosted me on the meeting. And so this ended up being an opportunity that I walked away from at that point. I walked away from it. I did not do a dang thing for them. And the reason I didn't do anything for them was because it showed me so clearly that this was not a business that shared my values. And I tell you this story because it was really scary for me to walk away from this opportunity. I didn't have a whole lot of other opportunities at that time, but I knew it was the right thing to do because I did not want to support a business that would treat its employees like that. That just didn't make sense to me. And I tell you this story in light of the article that we're going to read today, because you should never, ever, ever be so scared to leave a job or leave a company that you end up compromising yourself and your values. I know that this is not the easiest time to get a job. I understand that. But believe me when I tell you that staying at a place that forces you to compromise your values is always going to hurt you in the long run, and you will figure it out. I believe in the resiliency of people. I believe in the creativity of people. I believe in the ingenuity of people. You will figure it out if you trust yourself enough to take the leap. Now, the situation we're going to read about is a little bit different. New York City waitress is fired from her job for saying she wanted to wait to get the COVID-19 vaccine over concerns of its effect on her pregnancy. And we're going to specifically see how she was very, very close to compromising her values as we read this article. But before we get into that, I do almost daily content. I usually take the weekends off, but I do pretty much keep it daily, once or twice a day, around news, politics, culture, social justice, critical race theory, really anything that I find interesting to talk about. If you enjoy the type of content I'm putting out, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel, turning on notifications, leaving a comment, letting me know what you think. All of those things really help me out and help me grow the channel. I greatly appreciate it. All right, let's take a look at this article. A New York City waitress was fired from her job on Monday after she told her bosses at a tavern that she wanted to wait to get the COVID-19 vaccine until she could learn more about its side effects on women who are pregnant. Seems to be a pretty reasonable position to me. Bonnie Jacobson, 34, said she is not an anti-vaxxer, but wanted to wait for more research as she recently started trying to get pregnant with her husband. Jacobson, who started working at the Red Hook Tavern in August, said the restaurant first sent out an email on February 8th, which said, if you choose to get vaccinated, here's what you need to know. That email, reviewed by dailymail.com, did not tell employees that vaccines were required. Jacobson said she told her manager during a staff meeting that she wanted more time to research the vaccine and said her manager initially understood her concerns. But the Brooklyn Tavern changed its mind days later on February 12th and sent workers an email noting the vaccines were mandatory. Please be advised that we will require all employees receive the vaccination, notes the email. This will be mandatory for all existing employees and any new hires. This exception to the exception to this policy will be if your own health or disability prevents you from obtaining the vaccine. We encourage you to consult your healthcare professional to determine if getting a vaccine is right for you. So this woman who's trying to have a baby with her husband is worried about getting the vaccine because it might inhibit her ability to have a child. This is not a small matter. This is not insignificant. This is someone's fertility. And her job is requiring her to do something that might hurt her ability to have a child. Just think about that for a second. Listen, let me tell you this. Any job that tries to force you to put an, untested vaccine in your body, because in this regard, in regards to having children, it is untested. There is not data to show either way if it's good or bad. Any job that would force you to sacrifice your own fertility in order to work there is not a job that's worth having. What you do and the medical decisions that you make is none of your employer's business. It is not their business. And I don't even think it's legal for them to ask about this. To be really frank, I don't think it's legal under HIPAA. It is none of their business. You do not owe them an explanation. You don't owe them anything. Do not sacrifice your potential fertility for the sake of keeping a job. This is the most ridiculous thing in the world. Anyhow, Jacobson then emailed her employers on Saturday and said that she did not want to get the vaccine, she emailed her employers on Saturday and said that she did not yet want to get the vaccine, which she said she fully supports. I am choosing not to get the vaccine because there isn't enough data or research at this point on its effects on fertility, she wrote to her boss. While I fully support the vaccine and understand its importance, I do believe this is a very personal choice. I really hope this choice will not affect my employment at Red Hook Tavern. In her email, Jacobson noted that she takes COVID very seriously and has practiced the safety guidelines and would continue to do so. I get tested every 1 to 2 weeks and I have never tested positive for COVID. I plan to continue these safety practices for as long as necessary, she wrote. She continued, also, once there is more research to support that it does not affect fertility, I would reconsider my position. But on Monday, Jacobson received an email back to her noting her very personal choice and saying the company respected her decision not to get vaccinated. In order to continue employment with us, getting the vaccine is required. At this time, your employment will be terminated. We are sad to see you go. If you do change your mind, please do not hesitate to let us know. The company fired her via email because she didn't want to get the vaccine that would potentially jeopardize her having a child. This is not a company you work for. This is not a company that you support. This should be pretty black and white for everyone. Daily Mail reached out to Red Hook Tavern owner Billy for additional information and comments. And then they have 8,000 pictures. Jacobson said her concerns were sparked after she saw articles online indicating vaccine could cause infertility. After further research, most of what she saw was debunked, she acknowledged. But that doesn't really matter. I'm sorry. That does not actually change this scenario. Your employer should not be able to force you to make a medical decision. The research does say there is no evidence. Excuse me, I'm going to read that again. The research does say there is no evidence to support it does cause fertility, but there's not enough data to say it doesn't. As a 34-year-old woman, why take the risk now when I can just wait a little longer when there are people a lot older and more at risk who could use the vaccine more than I could right now? That is a perfectly reasonable question to ask. Perfectly reasonable. She added, my dad is 68 years old and lives in Pennsylvania and has diabetes. There's no reason I should be getting it before him. Jacobson said she was frustrated that the restaurant didn't even give her the chance to have an in-person conversation about the vaccine requirements, and said she might have been convinced into getting one. And this is where she goes completely wrong. You do not let your employer convince you to make medical decisions based on keeping your job. You don't do that. That is fundamentally not a good thing for anyone to acquiesce to. Your employer should not be making medical decisions for you, especially when they employ you in a tavern, in a bar. I'm sorry. Ain't nothing wrong with owning a bar, ain't nothing wrong with working at a bar, but am I going to let a barkeep make medical decisions for me when it could affect my potential fertility? No. Hard limit. No. I just wanted more time, and they didn't allow me that. I didn't even have the time to consult a physician. It was a week from being your choice to it's not going to be mandatory, it's going to be mandatory, to you're fired. I had a very good working relationship there. I just had an employee review on February 6th, and it was all positive, so it was truly shocking and so impersonal. Jacobson said that she sent the email on Saturday. She expected the restaurant's management to have a conversation with her directly if they wanted her to get the vaccine. The conversation may have swayed me the other way. When I first saw the email about getting fired, I thought, okay, maybe I'll get vaccinated. So maybe they could have talked me into getting the vaccine. No, wrong answer. A bar should not be making medical decisions for its employees. I don't understand why this is such an out-of-the-world concept to make. Drury acknowledged to the New York Times that he could have handled the situation differently. Oh, you think that you could have handled the situation differently than firing a well-performing employee over email because she refused to make a medical decision that could have jeopardized her infertility? You think? Once New York State allowed restaurant workers to receive the COVID-19 vaccine, we thought this would be the perfect opportunity to put a plan in place to keep our team and guests safe. No one has faced these challenges before, and we made a decision that we thought was best to protect everyone. And now we realize we need to update our policy so it's clear to our team how the process works and what we can do to support them. We're making these changes immediately. Jacobson says she was not offered her job back and would not accept it if she was. She's absolutely correct. She should not accept that job. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which enforces workplace discrimination laws, does allow companies to mandate the flu and other vaccines. Okay, so I guess it's not illegal for them to do it, but you know what? Just because you can do something doesn't actually mean you should do something. Any organization that wants to make medical decisions that could impacting its employees, any organization that wants to make your medical decisions for you is not an organization that deserves to have high-performing employees that show up, that do their jobs, because you know what? You can go get a job somewhere else that does not want to make your medical decisions for you. Never, ever, 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 ever sacrifice your values for a job. I promise you, when you do it, you will regret it. It almost always turns out badly. And when you stick to your guns and you say, my values are more important than this particular paycheck, that gives you the opportunity to go out into the world and to find something that you're going to love, that's going to be much more fulfilling, and an employer that isn't going to try to make medical decisions for you, which, you know, for me, is a pretty core element that I would consider when entering into a business relationship with anyone. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. I'll see you soon.